Designer Eric Hong debuted in 2023 with 3 games: the self-published trick-taking game Lupin, and 2 titles from Korean publisher Mandu Games: Pocket Farm, which I can't say anything about other than acknowledging its existence, and The Vale of Eternity, which I played a half dozen times in a review copy from the publisher, which I'll be talking about for the remainder of this video. In this game, 2 to 4 players will be encountering various types of creatures that come in 5 families, each a different color. And with those creatures, you will either sell them off to get magic stones, not beans, mind you, stones, or you'll be using those magic stones in order to put these creatures into your collection using their powers to get points. The game ends after 10 rounds, or when a player hits 60 points, you finish that round, and whoever has the most points wins at that time. Let's show you how it works. Here are the components of the Vale of Eternity, most of which we can put aside when discussing the details of gameplay. There is a stand-up figure of Eternity, for example, the character on the cover of the box, but this has no gameplay purpose, so put it aside. Have a nice chunky wooden first player marker, which is handy because there's lots of stuff going on each player's turn, but we'll put that aside. We have a score track. Again, the round that someone hits 60 or higher, that's the final round, and then whoever has the most points wins, or otherwise you keep track of the rounds, and at 10 rounds, game is over. This is handy. You need to keep track of the round number and the scoreboard and the score, but put that aside. You have an organizing chart to keep track of the creatures that are available in each round and how much you get in magic stones for selling them. It's a nice organizing tool, but it doesn't have a gameplay purpose really, so we'll put that aside. We have 3 types of magic stones, 1, 3, and 6. One critical element of this game is that you can have at most 4 stones in front of you at any time. Doesn't matter the denomination, 4 stones. So if you had 3 1s in front of you and you did something to get 3 more 1s, you must immediately after that action discard down the 4 stones. So you actually just got 1. If you have a hand like this, you get a 6. Well, you're discarding a 1. So you are trying to be very efficient with how you are earning stones, also with spending stones, because you don't get change. If I have to spend 2 to do something, well, I don't have 2 1s, so I have to spend a 3. I get nothing back. So you are trying to carefully balance what comes in, what comes out, so that you waste as little as possible with each of those currency movements. So that's critical, but we'll just put that on the side for now. Each player has 2 markers, or tokens really. You are going to use those to claim cards at the start of a round. And cards, well, that's really what the game is about. So we have cards in 5 different families. I have shuffled these so well that we have not seen 2 of those families yet. There you go. Ah, yes. And Eternity on a card as well. Immediately looking at these cards, you might come across my first comment on the graphics. Everything is wonderful about the layout, the organizing, symbols, the cost, graphics, everything looks good, except the typeface is way too small for me. I cannot read these cards when they are on the table. I don't know how well you can see them on the screen, so I'm going to zoom in on this, give you a better sense of what you're looking at. At the start of a round, you draw 2 cards from the deck for each player and organize them around this placard, which again highlights how many stones you get when you sell a creature from a particular family. It's a nice organizing tool. It's not essential, but it is handy to have the creatures grouped together by family because the different families, fire, earth, air, water, and dragon, well, they often go together well with one another. The fire works well together, and the water and the air, the earth a little less so, and the dragons are more independent. They do their own thing, but there is some overlap. So it's handy to have them organized by family type. So in a 4-player game, I'm going to draw 8 cards, and what I've been doing for many games is pick up the cards and read them, because again, once they're on the table, I can't read what this is. My eyes are not that good. This is too small. All works together. So we read them off, put them on the table, And then everyone can look at them again and try to figure out what they're going to be doing. After a few games, you get used to what a particular card does. I still have not memorized them, so I can't look at this picture and know what this creature does. I still have to read it. It's a little annoying that it's so small, but now we can look at them closer and then talk about how each round plays out. Here are the cards I dealt out earlier, now closer and easier to read. Again, in a 2-player game, you deal out only 4 cards at the start of a round. And 3 players, you have 6, and 4 players, you have 8. So we'll pretend we have a 4-player game. Each player has their 2-player tokens. You can organize these cards around the board or just lay them out like this. In player order, you're going to each draft 1 card. So we have this here, so forth, so on. And now you, in reverse player order, draft the remaining cards. So it's a snake draft. Nice use of it in this game. First player has the choice of whatever they want. Ideally, it's something perfect for whatever they're trying to do, and then they get whatever's left. So it's a nice balancing mechanism here. Now, you take actions. First player does all their actions, and then the second, third, fourth players, and then you have a little bit of end of round things based on what cards are in play. The first player, well, each player can take as many actions as they want, with the only requirement being that their tokens are no longer on cards at the end of their turn. You can do 4 different things with cards. You can sell them. So this is a fire creature that gives you 3 1s. I could just throw it away, get 3 1s, and that's it. I can tame a creature. Take my token off the card, put it in my hand. I've tamed it. It's now mine to do with as I wish. Cards in hand, well, there's no penalty. I can just keep it for the rest of the game, but of course, that means I took it for nothing. I could have sold it and got magic stones to do something with. I can summon a creature, but to do so, I have to spend magic stones equal to or greater than its cost. So I could sell this creature, get a 3 and a 1. Okay, I have no more than 4 stones in front of me, so that's cool. I can now summon this creature by spending 4. And it has an instant effect, a comes into play effect. That's what the lightning bolt does. Many of the cards have them. I earn 2 points for each card family in my area. So I get 2 points. I have 1 family in my area. This card is already in play by the time the instant resolves. That's not many points. It's 2. So possibly I wanted to hold on to this and play it later when I have more families in play. You decide what you want to do with these cards. You can have at most the number of cards in front of you as the round number. So in round 1, I can have 1 card in front of me. That's it. Round 2, I can have up to 2. Round 3 is 3, and so on. That is a very important restriction. You want to get cards out in order to make use of them, but now you're occupying a slot. Can you open that slot again? Opportunities are not great, but the 4th action you can do on a turn is spend magic stones equal to the round number, and you discard one of your cards in front of you. So in round 1, I could spend 1 and get rid of this creature. Possibly not a very efficient use of the creature. I spend it once and it's done, but maybe that was it. I wanted 2 points and now it's out of my way and I've got room to put something else down. Okay, you can, again, sell a creature for magic stones. Tame a creature, put it in your hand. Summon a creature by spending magic stones. And discard a creature. I forget what it's actually called. But each player is going to do that in turn. The round then resolves. Now, the other types of powers that creatures have, they have ongoing abilities. So, this one, whenever you summon a card, earn 1 point. Well, that's cool. When you put it down, you draw a card. So one time draw a card, and then earn a point each time you summon a creature. You think, okay, but I'm limited in the number of slots unless I take an action to discard creatures. However, some creatures have end of round abilities. So this one copies the end of round ability of something else. This end of round ability says recover. And what that means is you take the card and put it back in your hand. Some cards let you recover a card of your choice, or there's some restriction on how you're going to recover a card. This one, though, recovers itself. So you spend 3, draw a card, and at the end of your turn, it goes back to your hand. And so you can spend 3 each turn to draw a card. Drawing cards is interesting because it's the only hidden information that comes into the game. Otherwise, all the cards are public. But you draw something from the deck, no one knows what you have, what you're planning. They have a harder time blocking what you're doing or counteracting you through drafting. Okay, drawing cards is good, but again, you have to make use of them. Once they're in your hand, you can't just sell them because you are only selling cards after the initial drafting from what you have drafted, not things that are in your hand. There you go. Very straightforward, very simple to understand. Take turns drafting in a snake draft. Do something with the animals. Sell, tame, summon, get rid of, and then your turn is over. But over time, you are going to try to put cards together that work well. So sometimes cards do not work well. If you had these down, for example, well, this one copies an end of round ability, which in this case just means you recover this. So I would spend 5, and then it goes back to my hand, and it doesn't do anything when it's in play. You get to resolve abilities in the order of your choice. So I could do this one first, recover, and this one copies, and there's nothing else to copy. So it just stays there. Of course, that means I have wasted my time putting that creature out unless I have something else that is useful. Trying to look for other cards here. There you go. So recover one of your red creatures with an instant ability. So I could copy that. So look at that. I have this one down and this one. I spend 4, put it out. I get 2 points for each family. And now I can put it back in my hand. Of course, now this one has nothing to do. But if I have another red creature with an instant ability, this one also has self-recover. Never mind. If I had another red creature with an instant ability, then both of these would be useful. So earn 2 for each red in your area. There you go. Specialize in red. And this one wants you to diversify out of red. All right. You're going to collect cards that ideally all work together. But in this case, I get to recover both by using these powers. And then if I have the magic stones, I can put them out again and just keep getting points every single turn. And the only way for other people to stop this, well, there's a few cards that let you steal points. There is a dragon of each color that lets you hit a creature from a particular family. You discard a summoned air creature and get 8 points. So I can hit this, and now you can't use that anymore. If there were no other air creatures than my own, then I have to discard one of my own. I get 8 points for it, and I clear a space, so that's not bad necessarily if I'm ready to give up that creature. Maybe I'm fine with, where's the creature I just had? There we go. Now I don't have it anymore. I'm throwing stuff all around. So this one, draw a card, and whenever I summon, I get 1. I could summon this in play, I get 1, and then I discard it for 8. I got the card, I got a point, and now that space is free again. So ideally, work everything together in order to score points or disrupt other people. Or, more importantly, don't let them draft combos in the first place. Over the past couple of years, I've become disenchanted with open drafting games, especially ones in which the market is refilled at the end of a player's turn. Cascadia is probably the best known example of this type of design from recent years. Did a video talking about Cascadia and a couple of other open drafting games. My main issue with this type of design is I often feel like I'm not interacting to any great degree with my fellow players. Often I'm just building my own thing with whatever I draft, and you can't do a thing about it. I'm just going to have my world. And even in the drafting, I often can't really affect what's going to happen to you. Maybe there's a tile that's perfect for you, especially in Cascadia. It matches the landscape. It's got the animal you want. It's going to get you 5 points, which is best of whatever is there. But there's another choice that's going to get you 4 or 3. It's not that much of a difference. I have to worry about min-maxing those values that are roughly the same. And of course, maybe I take something and then it gets refilled by a tile that's just as good. Okay. What happened there? There's not anything that felt like I really impacted you. The Veil of Eternity does not have that. For one, because the market is not refilled when you're drafting. You have a limited number of choices available. You see everything that's there. You know you're going to get 2 of those cards. Which 2? How are they going to combo together with what you already have in front of you and in your hand and with the magic stones that you have to pay for things? More importantly, the values on those cards are not just single points or a landscape or something that matches and gets you 3 points instead of 2. Often it's a card that is worthless or a card that will propel you to victory. It's a big swing in abilities and effects in the cards. It is very important to pay attention to what's available on the table and what other people are trying to do. You can really affect what someone is doing, but you're not necessarily hurt by hate drafting because you are not forced to play that creature. You can draft that creature and throw it away for the magic stones. You needed magic stones anyway to pay for the other card that you're drafting or something already in your hand. Okay, I got it that way. And I hit you at the same time. So great. I impacted someone else and affected what they're doing. Some card abilities directly affect what other people are doing as well, but the drafting is incredibly meaningful in the game. That is often where you will win or lose the game, primarily lose the game, because you will let someone else do something and just run away with victory. I mentioned I played 6 times. I finally played a 4-player game yesterday, and I blew it. The other people blew it. We just let someone draft their way to victory in the first round. And I even highlighted the combo that was on the table because 2 people were new. One person had played on PGA, Board Game Arena, some number of times. There was a combo just sitting on the table. There is a red card, fire card, where it costs 0. And if you play it and you have cards that cost 1, 2, 3, and 4 in play, you earn 10 points. Cool. I mean, you can't play it until the 5th round because you have to be in the 5th round in order to have 5 cards in play in front of you. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then that card for the 0. But 2 other red cards were out there. One is a red card that lets you recover a red card. Forces you to recover. You don't have a choice. You have to. These are not optional abilities. Often forces you to recover a red card with an instant ability, with a come into play ability. And there was another red card that lets you forces you to recover a card of any family that has a cost of 2 or less. So either of those 2 cards would bounce that other card back into your hand. And then you can summon it next turn and summon it again and summon it again and get 10 points and boom, you're off to 60 before you know it. And none of the first 3 players took any of those cards. So the 4th player took that 0 cost, took one of the others, I forget which one. Didn't matter really. By turn 5, 10 points. Turn 6, 10 points. Turn 7, 10 points. They were doing other things as well. That was the game. And I let that happen because I had the most experience among all the players at the table. I should have taken that linchpin card that costs 0, that gives you those 10 points, and not let one player get that and something it would combo with. Maybe he would have taken the other 2 red cards so that I couldn't then combo with it. Maybe not. And then I could have had that combo instead of him. But I went into the game with some idea of what I wanted to do. I got dazzled by a card that was out there that I thought I could make work, kind of an engine card. It discounts the cost for air cards, the pink ones, by 2. And so, okay, you're going to focus on pink cards and make them cheaper. Okay, good. That gives you something to build on over the course of play. But I did that at the expense of ignoring what was already on the table, that combo that was already there. It's really interesting to play Vale of Eternity because not all the cards come into play, especially when you play with 2 players. Card selection is pretty limited. 4 cards are put out each round, and that's it. So you're going to see a relatively small proportion of the deck. And you can't count on something coming out to combo with what you already have. You're taking those tools that are given to you and trying to work with them as best as you can. With more players, you've got more stuff coming out, but of course, more people drafting that would interfere with what you would possibly get. With 2 players as well, I should mention, of course, you're going to go first in the drafting half the time. So it's a little harder to cut someone off from getting the card that's perfect for them, but there's less likelihood of that card coming up just because you're seeing fewer cards in play. With 4-player game, you got 8 cards to choose from at first. And so probably there's going to be something that works pretty well for you. But not necessarily. It's not going to come up every time. And so you have to work with what's there rather than hope for the future. I essentially took that pink card, thinking I was going to focus on the fairy creatures, the air creatures, with a discount in order to maximize all them. They work well together. There's lots of card drawing from them. And then if the cost is reduced, great. And yet I just gave up something that was on the table and the other person won. I think we hit the 7th round, got past 60 points, and that was that. Now, that was my fault. And it's interesting because the rules don't give you any warning along these lines. They lay out the rules. You can tame, you can sell, you can summon, you can discard. There you go. You got effects at the end of the round. Now go play. There's no warning on how things are going to combo together or even to look out for those combos. It's this discovery process as you begin to play and you find something that on the table you're like, wait, that's going to let me do this and work well too. Oh, okay, that looks good. And then if you get to draft it, ideally you can put it all together. Sometimes you've got those perfect tools, but then you also need the magic stones to make that happen. And you have to manage the stones just right. And can you get the right creatures to sell, to give you the stones, to do this, that, and the other? And it's a little challenge to make everything work. There's lots of details sometimes that make it difficult to overcome, that challenge or to make that combo happen. It's there for you, but sometimes then you put it all together and you feel this great satisfaction and all those gears clicking and then there go your points. And then another game, you get that same card and there's nothing else to pair with it. And it's just kind of worthless. So the value of everything changes in each game depending on what's there. You're trying to make it, the best opportunities of what you have available. And you can sort of plan ahead for what's coming, but maybe that's at the expense of everything else. As I learned, very important. Now, one other aspect of the game, as I mentioned, is that you can have only as many creatures as the number of the round. So first round, 1 creature, and so on. So you often play cheap creatures early because you could only have sold 1 creature to summon another creature. You only had 2 cards available. And so you'll have the low-cost card that isn't doing very much, and then you're just stuck with it for the rest of the game, and you're desperate to put something better in that slot. But now the cost to discard a creature is 5 magic stones, 6, it's 7. It's huge, and that would take all your stones, and all you did was empty the slot. And now you have to wait till next turn to get more stones to pay for it. But if you'd waited another round, then actually that slot would be open. So it's this real dilemma of whether it makes sense to put those cards into play. How much are you going to make use of them over the course of the game? And again, you're just going on intuition, you're going on faith, you just make the best of what's available to you at the time. And ideally, things will work out, but not always. You're just throwing all these random tools that are coming together. There's one card In particular, this goblin costs 1. At the end of each round, you steal a point from an opponent. Okay, cheap to put out. You can get out early, steal 10 points over the course of the game. Maybe hit one player, stealing 10 points from them. That's a 20-point swing in a 2-player game. With 3 and 4 players, maybe you're hitting other people. But is that the best use of that slot? And you won't really know until you see what other people are doing and try to affect them and combo with something else. There are some green things that combo together. It's really fascinating with only 70 cards. It's a real discovery process as you're playing the game and try to see what works together. And then again, when you play again, sometimes you're distracted because you're hoping that something comes up, and it may or may not come up. But it gives you lots of fascinating tools to use in various ways, and it really gives a feel of like early Magic, where you don't necessarily know what to expect or what to see and what's going to come into play, what you can make use of. And sometimes it just feels so good when you find those cards that work together. And other times you blow it. So, I don't know. It's a learning process, but the problem, of course, is, well, now do we have time to play again? Let's play again. Now we know what to look for. One day I played 3 games straight, and it was very much a learning process. Those were my first 3 games, actually all 3-player, where we just fooling around, had no idea what to do. And then the second game, I put together this combo that was just perfect. And then third game, one of those cards came up from the combo, and someone else was like, I'm going to take that right now. And then it didn't really do much. So just that shifting variability of the value of things. You have these dragon cards that give you tons of points, but they have a high cost, and maybe you even can't use what's there because there's no fairies in play. Maybe the fairies just don't show up in that game, and so you've got this card that can't do anything or can't do much. It's all about opportunities that you have available to you and making the best of them with whatever random assortment comes into play. This combination of the card abilities plus that restriction of how many cards to put out, which really affects what you can do, and the magic stone system where you can have at most 4 stones, so you get no change. And so you're working these elements all together. It's a fascinating, puzzly game to play that gives you real interaction with other people. It's great. It's really solid design. I look forward to playing more and hopefully playing smarter in the future. Don't wave away that combo and just assume, he hasn't played before. He's not going to know how to put it together. We're going to stop him from doing this. So foolish. Hope to play better next time.